So how can we use a tax or a subsidy to fix a positive externality? So here again, this is like my lawn mowing, or say the immunization example, where my private choice is less than the socio-optimal choice. So people are choosing too few immunizations. I choose not to mow my lawn so often. Why? Because the value to me is less than the value to society. So I don't choose enough. So what could we do? Well, in this case, you could imagine we could put a subsidy, right? So what you say is that I'll actually pay people to immunize their children. Or the neighborhood around me might pay me to mow my lawn. What is that doing? Well, that's pushing the private demand out. Because now, not only do I get the value to me of mowing my lawn, I also get the cash. Not only do I get the value of immunizing my children, I get a payment from the government because I immunize my child. That pushes my private out. And if we can get the subsidy just right, you could imagine we could push the private demand curve out to the social demand curve. And you could achieve the socio-optimal level of choices by a subsidy. Right? So you're paying people to do something that has positive benefits. The flip side is when you have a negative externality. So we talk about a pollution tax. So carbon permits or a carbon tax it's a tax on a negative externality. We think people produce too much carbon dioxide into the air. So the market solution is too large. So we want them to produce less carbon dioxide up in the air. So what do? We put a tax on them to push their demand curves, to make their choices lower so that they'll pollute less. So a negative externality can get hopefully cured by a tax on that choice. This positive externality hopefully gets cured by a subsidy to encourage people to produce more. Okay, and the final example, binge drinking, right? Was one example is used in the book, but we could think of this as really a tax on any sort of healthy or harmful good. So you see lots of media campaigns around nowadays on we should have taxes on this and that, taxes on fast food, so taxes on McDonald's, we should have a tax on Doritos or something else that makes people fat. So what sort of language? Well, if you listen carefully to the language of these people, they're actually talking in this language now. So economists have actually had enough of an impact upon public health campaigns that the public health campaigners actually start to talk like economists, which is very frightening. So they're proposing that we tax these things, right? They're not saying, let's make it illegal. So no one's saying, let's make McDonald's illegal. They're saying, let's, make McDonald's more expensive. So what do we imagine? Well, again, we imagine we're thinking about a market where we have, a demand and supply curve. We have an initial price and quantity, P1 and Q1. And we're going to say that Q1 is too high for whatever reason, right? So what we want to do is have less of it, so less fast food sold, less alcohol, less cigarettes purchased. So what we'll do is we'll slap a tax. People who choose to buy these things will now face a buyer's price that's higher than P1. And the people who sell it, McDonald's or the cigarette companies, will get less revenues. They'll get a seller's price. So the tax reduces the quantity sold. But what you find now is they actually start to talk like economists. They'll start to talk about negative externalities. So what they might argue is that there's a negative externality, in a sense, of violence from alcohol consumption. Because people consume too much alcohol, there's more violence in society. Therefore, we actually want to reduce the quantity of alcohol sold from Q1 down to Q2. Or they might say there's too much fast food eaten, therefore too many Australians are obese. So we want to reduce the costs of obesity on healthcare. So what we'll do is we'll put a tax on fast food to reduce the amount of obesity in society by reducing the consumption of fast food. So the public health campaigners are actually starting to talk like economists.